Good afternoon guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. So if you're new to my channel, then my name is Natalie and I'm so glad to have you on here. If you are returning, then welcome back, and I hope you're prepared for another video today. So in today's video I am going to be talking about receiving direction from God. So I was reading about the life of Moses and thinking about, just how much God had used him, how far he had come, from, growing up in the Egyptian palace to then being the person that God would use to deliver the Israelites from Egypt. And as I reached Exodus 14 and I was reading through how the Israelites escaped from the land of Egypt or left the land of Egypt and then were pursued by the Egyptians, there was something that actually struck me when I got to that particular chapter. So after Moses had led the Israelites out of Egypt and they had got to the Red Sea, which was obviously the next challenge that they would face in terms of trying to get away from what was their place of bondage, I noticed something. And when Moses had got to the Red Sea, he kind of stopped and then looked back and then saw the Egyptians that were pursuing them. And he started to cry out to God and was like, God, save us. The Israelites were just like, oh my gosh, they're coming after us. It would have been better if we stayed in Egypt rather than come to die out here. And then God's response to Moses was just like, interesting. God responded and said, why are you crying out to me? Use your stuff that I have given you and just reach out and part the Red Sea. And for me it was just like, so Moses, at the start of when God called him, Moses received power from God. God had told Moses, I'm going to make you like a god to Aaron, your brother, who will be your prophet. So, Moses had received this power from God. He had the staff that he used to show the Egyptians how powerful God was. And that was the staff he used to do many great signs and wonders. So to then have got to the next, what I would consider the next obstacle in that journey, and then turn back to God and say, God, what do I do now? What I got from that was God was saying to him, listen, I have already given you this power. I've already given you a tool you can use. You know the words to say. What would you like to happen in this situation? So God in that moment directed Moses in what to do. And what I want to focus on here is direction. I think there are times when we pray to God, we expect an answer in the form of maybe God actually intervening in that situation and actually doing something for us. But there are times when God, simply needs to direct us. And in the Bible, it talks about, acknowledging God in everything that you do, and he will direct your path. So that direction is very key, because there are times when we might miss those cues because God has already given us that power. God is saying to you, I have equipped you with everything you need to do. Another great example of this is David. David already had a sling or a slingshot. I don't know what they're called, a slingshot. And when he got there, he was directed on what he needed to do, how he needed to use those tools. And I did another video, I think it was last year, where I talked about how God equips us with certain natural ability, certain tools that, we can utilize in certain situations that we face. And that was a classic example of Moses experiencing that and having realized that actually, God, you're right. I do have this thing that I can use. So the point I'm trying to make in this is, you might be in a situation where you don't know what to do, you don't know where to turn, you feel like the walls are closing in, you're feeling very kind of like, oh my gosh, I need to do something now. And you might be praying to God and say, God, I need you to do something. But are you listening out for God's direction? Okay, are you listening out for an instruction that he's given you? Because maybe you're in the pathway he needs you to be, and you simply need direction to get to your next point in life, to get to the next part of your journey. And when you talk about praying amiss, this is where sometimes we can miss it, because instead of listening out for direction, we might be praying for God's intervention in a situation that he has already equipped us to deal with. We simply need to acknowledge the presence of God in that situation and then wait for that direction. Okay, so that's all I wanted to share today. It's something that I have been meditating on and reflecting on, and actually been praying for myself in the last few weeks, after I received that understanding, because I was just like, how many times do I pray to God and I say, God, I need you to do A, B, C, and D. God, why are you not doing this? Am I then, have I then missed a direction that God is trying to give me or is giving me? When you think of, God being our shepherd, he leads me beside still waters. It's that direction again. It's that following. It's being led by God. It's being directed by God in the way that you should go. Now a key part of that is when he talks about being his sheep and the sheep recognizing his voice. We need to recognize his voice. We need to recognize what God is trying to say to us in that moment, because if not, we could be stuck at the Red Sea crying out for God to do something for us when God is saying to us, listen, I need to direct you. This is where you should go. I've already given you this tool. Why don't you do this? And if we miss it, it just makes the situation even more frustrating for us, and it makes it as if God is not working in our situation when he is. But it requires action on our part. It requires us to follow his leading and his direction. So that's my encouragement for you today. If you're stuck at the Red Sea where you think this situation seems so overwhelming, I need God to intervene. I need God to do something. Ask God and say, God, what are you directing me to do at this point? Instruct me, lead me in the way that I should go, and really, really listen out for the direction of God, because sometimes it can be so simple. We might think we lack all the resources we need to do what we need to do, and God is saying to you, I've given it to you. I gave it to you a while back. If only you will remember that I gave you the power to do A, B, C, and D. Okay, so I hope you're blessed by this. Like I said, it's not very long, but I hope you can meditate on it. I will leave the details of that Bible passage, and I'd like you to read for yourself, and see how God interacted with Moses at that point. Go back to the beginning of when God called Moses and look at the power that God had given him. How God called him. How God empowered him to do so many great things in the presence of the Egyptians and Pharaoh. Sometimes God positions us exactly in that way. He leads us in the same way. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. As usual, please leave your comments, in the section, or leave your feedback in the comment section below. Let me know what you think after you've read that passage, or let me know what other examples you have seen in the Bible where God has directed, in terms of answering a question that, his people have asked him, rather than move in the way that we would expect him to. He has simply given a direction or an instruction. I would love to hear your thoughts. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, then please like it and leave a comment, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.